You ever wonder why buyers lump you in with the cheap option when you know what you have is better? This is extremely frustrating, right? Because most people don't want to be the low cost provider. All right. So most people feel that their solutions have value, that they justify a higher price than the absolute dirt cheapest thing in the marketplace. And so when you're dealing with buyers that don't see it and don't appreciate it, it's frustrating, and it can be really challenging to say, what do you do about it? You can't force them to see, that you're worth exponentially more cost than the cheapest option. And so when you think about it, imagine this represents kind of your solution, right? And because you're not the cheapest product, you are going to charge a premium. Now, for my international friends, you guys can substitute any currency that you like in there. But from a buyer perspective, you're trying to convince them, hey, you should pay more for this because it's so much better. Yet, when buyers look at you, they often will just try to box you in, right? And when they think about the low cost provider, that is a narrow scope, a narrow solution, and a small price because you're not getting that much, right? So there's a trade-off. When you spend less, you get less, and when you spend more, you get more, right? And so that's the challenge: is how do you get them to see all of this? Because from the buyer's perspective, you might as well just cross all this out because they don't care. And when you think about what sellers try to do to be able to get buyers to see that they should pay a premium, I think what sellers often think is it's just kind of an identification problem or a realization problem, right? So the buyer just doesn't realize that this stuff is out here and that it's available to them. And so what you see when you analyze their messaging, when they're trying to persuade someone, you see two phrases that come up a lot. And this will be a good thing for you to self-reflect and look through your decks and your talk track to say, do you also use this kind of language? So the two phrases are, we have, right? So you kind of hit them with some we have to say, hey, are you aware we have this and we have this and we have this? And so the hope is if you can show them that you possess it, then they're going to want it, right? It's on the shelf. Why wouldn't you want to purchase it? So we have. The other type of language and phrase that people use often to try to expand and break out of the box is we do, right? Well, were you aware? We do this and we do this and we do this. And so that combination of have and do, the feeling is that if you do this enough, buyers will be like, holy cow, I had no idea how amazing you are. Like, here's my budget. Just take it whatever you want. And this is not the actual problem, right? Even though when you look at decks and when you look at sales tracks, it is so prevalent, right? Just so much of we have, we do. And from a buyer perspective, the key question to them and the key phrase is not these. What they are thinking is, we need, right? We need. And so that's what they're thinking about. And in their minds, when they think about, hey, what do we need? This box is completely acceptable, right? That's it's not a lot, but that's enough. That's all we need. And so all of a sudden, when you start looking at all this extra cost and they weigh that against their needs, it's like, nah, you know what? We're good. We'll stay in the box. And so it doesn't matter how much of this you do, it's not going to change what they perceive as their need. And so it's just important that when you're selling, you need to be able to, one, really understand buyer needs, but sometimes buyer needs are a little too narrow. And there are certain needs that they have that they're not fully aware of. And so a lot of times in persuasive messaging, it's not just about kind of adding more inventory and telling them more of what you have and what you do. It's about reshaping their perception to be able to say, hey, I fully appreciate this is what you need, but what you should be aware of is, there's certain risks, there's certain opportunities, there's certain windows that you need a little bit more. And so if you can kind of slowly expand that box, all of a sudden they start to see why maybe they should pay a premium. Maybe not all of it, but maybe you can get some more, right? And so this is just a misalignment that you see so often, that people have traditional messaging, yet it doesn't change the behavior and it doesn't change the perceived need. And therefore, you're always going to be in that red box. So if you are tired of it, these are what you have to look at to be able to change the outcomes.